In 1980, fossil hunter Sue Hendrickson joined a Black Hills Institute expedition on the Cheyenne River Indian Reservation in South Dakota. While the crew fixed a truck, she explored cliffs of the Hell Creek Formation. Bones jutting from the rock caught her eye. What she uncovered would become the most complete Tyrannosaurus rex ever found. Later named Sue in her honor, the fossil represented a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, measuring over 40 feet long, with a skull more than 5 feet in length. Sue revealed an almost complete predator. More than 90% of the skeleton was preserved, an extraordinary level of completeness. For paleontologists, this was the holy grail. Before Sue, T. rex fossils were often partial skeletons, just fragments hinting at the creature's power. With Sue, the species could be seen in detail, from the crushing jaws to the smallest toe bones. The discovery would ignite scientific breakthroughs, cultural fascination, and legal battles that captured international attention. Sue was not just another fossil, it was a turning point for paleontology, a symbol of how one chance encounter could change science forever. Excavating Sue was an immense challenge. The bones were locked in rock for 7 million years, encased in sandstone that had hardened like cement. Teams from the Black Hills Institute worked carefully with chisels, saws, and plaster to remove each piece. Over 250 bones were uncovered, including ribs, hips, limbs, tail, and the iconic skull. The skull alone weighed more than 600 pounds and required special rigging to transport, but each bone was encased in plaster jackets, labeled and hauled out with precision. The completeness of Sue meant that paleontologists had nearly the entire blueprint of a T. rex, unlike previous discoveries. Scientists could finally reconstruct posture, gait, feeding mechanics, and skeletal structure with accuracy. The skeleton became a time capsule of biology, showing how muscles attached, how joints bore weight, and how the skull balanced on a massive frame. Every bone added context to the life of a predator at the top of the food chain. The excavation took weeks of grueling labor, but the result was unprecedented, the world's most complete Tyrannosaurus rex. For the first time, scientists had a nearly whole specimen, a foundation to answer questions that had lingered for decades. Sue lived in the Hell Creek ecosystem, one of the most studied fossil beds in the world. About 7 million years ago, this region was a humid floodplain on the edge of the western interior seaway. The environment included rivers, swamps, conifers, flowering plants, and fern prairies. Giant herbivores like Triceratops and Edmontosaurus roamed in herds. Ankylosaurs and Pachycephalosaurs browsed in the undergrowth. Crocodiles, turtles, and amphibians filled the waterways, while small mammals scurried among roots and burrows. Pterosaurs soared overhead. Tyrannosaurus rex was the apex predator in this world, capable of hunting hadrosaurs, scavenging carcasses, and even challenging Triceratops, fossils from hell. Creek preserved predator-prey interactions, including healed bite marks on herbivores and injuries on predators. Sue, discovered in this environment, provides a direct link to the final days of the dinosaurs before the asteroid struck. By studying her bones, paleontologists reconstructed not only her anatomy, but her ecosystem, one of diversity, complexity, and impending extinction. For Americans, Hell Creek represents the end of the dinosaur era on their own soil. Sue's completeness gave scientists a nearly perfect representative of life on Earth just before the Great Cretaceous Paleogene catastrophe. The discovery of Sue quickly moved from scientific triumph to legal storm. The fossil was found on land held in trust by the U.S. government for Maurice Williams, a member of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. The Black Hills Institute believed they had purchased rights to the fossil for $5,000, but questions of legality arose immediately because the land was trust property. Federal law required special permission. In 1992, the FBI and South Dakota National Guard raided the Black Hills Institute. They seized Sue's bones, loaded them into trucks, and placed them under government custody. Headlines dubbed it the dinosaur under arrest. For 5 years, Sue sat in storage, locked away from science. The case highlighted the clash between private fossil hunters, Native American rights, federal authority, and scientific access. Paleontologists feared the world's most complete T-Rex might disappear into endless legal disputes. For Native communities, the fossil represented land rights and cultural sovereignty. For the public, the case revealed that fossils are not just scientific objects, but also legal and cultural artifacts. Sue's story expanded paleontology beyond science into law, ethics, and politics. It was no longer just about bones, but about who controls the past. In 1997, Sue's future was decided. The courts returned ownership to Maurice Williams, who placed the fossil up for auction at Sotheby's in New York. The sale drew global attention, with bidders including private collectors, international museums, and wealthy individuals. The Fieldmuseum of Natural History in Chicago, backed by sponsors such as McDonald's, Disney, and the California State Lottery, won the auction with a bid of $8.36 million, a record-breaking price for a fossil. The victory ensured Sue remained in the public domain, accessible for science and education. Preparators began cleaning and restoring the fossil, a process that took years. Visitors to the museum could watch through glass as scientists meticulously prepared each bone. In May 2000, Sue was unveiled in Chicago to enormous crowds. More than 10,000 people attended the opening day, and millions have since come to see the fossil. For Chicago, Sue became a civic icon, as recognizable as the city's architecture. For paleontology, it was a triumph that the fossil stayed in public hands. For the public, Sue became a direct connection to deep time, a predator that once roamed North America, now standing in a modern museum. Sue transformed science by revealing the full anatomy of Tyrannosaurus rex. CT scans of the skull showed lightweight sinus systems that reduced weight while anchoring powerful jaw muscles. Bite force studies demonstrated Sue's jaws could crush bone with over 8,000 pounds of pressure. The most powerful bite force known for a land animal, and wear patterns on teeth, confirmed bone-crunching feeding behavior, proving that T. rex both hunted and scavenged. Growth rings in bones indicated Sue was about 28 years old at death, making it one of the oldest rex individuals known. This revealed that the species could live decades, not just years. The skeleton displayed arthritis, fractures, and possible infections, showing that even apex predators suffered disease and injury. The completeness of the skeleton allowed biomechanical models to simulate walking, running, and balance. Scientists discovered T. rex grew rapidly in adolescence before slowing in adulthood. With Sue, the legend became reality. T. rex was not just a monster from films, but a real animal with growth, struggles, and survival challenges. The fossil gave the world its first comprehensive biography of Tyrannosaurus rex, from youth to maturity. The cultural impact of Sue was immense. At the Fieldmuseum, the fossil became the centerpiece, one of the most visited exhibits in the country. Millions of children, families, and tourists stood in awe beneath its towering frame. Sue appeared in documentaries, news features, and even late-night talk shows. For Chicago, it became an icon alongside landmarks like the Willis Tower. For Americans over 40, Sue was both discovery and nostalgia. Many had grown up fascinated by dinosaurs in museums or movies, and Sue rekindled that childhood wonder. Merchandise, books, and toys spread its image worldwide. The legal saga also elevated Sue's fame, highlighting questions about fossil ownership and commercialization. The record auction price drew attention to the risk of fossils disappearing into private collections. Sue symbolized why fossils should remain in public institutions, accessible to science and society. Beyond bones, Sue became a cultural ambassador, representing discovery, controversy, and education. The fossil demonstrated that paleontology influences not only science, but also identity, economy, and heritage. Sue's story is not confined to the museum, it is embedded in American culture, as unforgettable as the fossil itself. Advancing technology has kept Sue scientifically relevant for decades. Researchers used CT scans, 3D imaging, and digital reconstructions to explore anatomy in unprecedented detail. Studies of the inner ear canals showed adaptations for balance, stabilizing its enormous head during locomotion. Neck vertebrae revealed massive muscle attachments, indicating incredible strength to subdue prey. Microscopic analysis of bone tissue clarified growth rates, metabolism, and aging. Evidence suggested that T-Rex grew rapidly as juveniles, adding hundreds of pounds per year before slowing in maturity. Comparative studies with other T-Rex specimens like Stan, Scotty, and Jane showed variation within the species. Sue served as the benchmark for these comparisons, the gold standard against which all others were measured. Each decade brought new findings, demonstrating that fossils are not static objects. For older audiences, Sue reflects not only prehistory, but also the evolution of science itself, from plaster jackets to 3D modeling. The fossil has become a living participant in research, continuing to reveal secrets nearly 70 million years after death. Sue embodies how science evolves, proving that discovery never truly ends. In 2018, Sue was moved to a new exhibition hall at the Fieldmuseum. Scientists updated the mount to reflect new interpretations of posture and anatomy. The skeleton was reassembled with its tail extended for balance, arms tucked closer to the chest, and hips repositioned. The display was surrounded by immersive exhibits recreating the Hell Creek ecosystem. Visitors could see Triceratops, Edmontosaurus, and crocodilians that lived alongside Sue. Multimedia screens explained biomechanics, diet, and environment. The real skull, too heavy for the mount, was displayed separately for closer examination. For visitors, this made Sue more than a fossil. It became an interactive experience. Families learned about ecosystems, predators, and extinction. Older audiences appreciated the historical continuity, witnessing how science refines its interpretations. Sue was no longer just a skeleton, but part of a broader narrative of life and extinction at the end of the Cretaceous. The remount reminded the world that discovery evolves. Even the most famous fossil can change as new evidence emerges. Sue's hall combined spectacle with scholarship, ensuring its relevance for generations. Sue's influence reached far beyond Chicago. Casts of the skeleton toured internationally, appearing in Japan, Australia, and Europe. Traveling exhibits allowed millions to encounter the fossil story without visiting Illinois. Each replica carried the narrative of discovery, controversy, and science. Sue also influenced debates about fossil ownership. In 2020, another T-Rex named Stan sold for $31.8 million to a private buyer, sparking fears that important fossils could be lost to science Sue's case set a precedent. Public institutions, supported by partnerships, could secure fossils for everyone. This balance between science, business, and public interest became a model. For Americans, Sue's story resonates with deeper questions of stewardship. Who should own the past? How should fossils be preserved? Sue became part of conversations about heritage and responsibility. The fossil's journey from cliffs to courtrooms to museums illustrates how discovery connects geology, law, and culture. Its legacy lies not only in its bones, but also in the ethical framework it helped shape. Sue remains both a scientific treasure and a cultural ambassador, shaping how people worldwide think about fossils and their value. Ultimately, Sue the T-Rex is more than a fossil. It is a story of chance discovery, painstaking excavation, bitter legal battles, record-breaking auctions, and cultural triumph. Scientifically, it provided the clearest and most complete picture of Tyrannosaurus rex ever achieved, illuminating growth, biomechanics, and health. Culturally, it became an icon, inspiring awe in millions and symbolizing Chicago's identity. Legally, it forced society to grapple with questions of land rights, ownership, and preservation. Personally, it connected generations, children seeing dinosaurs for the first time, adults remembering their own childhood wonder. For Americans over 40, Sue represents both nostalgia and education, bridging past and present. The fossil embodies continuity across generations, showing that fascination with prehistory never fades. More than 30 years after its discovery, Sue continues to inspire, teach, and challenge. It is not just the most complete Tyrannosaurus rex ever found. It is the most complete story of how fossils intersect with humanity. Sue represents the enduring power of discovery, reminding us that the past is never truly gone. It lives in bones, in stories, and in the endless curiosity that drives us to uncover our world's deepest history.